As Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed that special prosecutor in the Hunter Biden probe, and impeachment calls are getting increasingly louder. Joining us live now at the White House with the latest details on Biden's arrival this morning is our chief White House correspondent, James Rosen. James, good afternoon.
Bianca, good afternoon to you. When asked about the appointment of David Weiss as the special counsel in the Hunter Biden case, a spokesperson for the White House counsel's office directed our queries back to DOJ and to attorneys for the younger Mr. Biden. Friday saw the filing of 4 new articles of impeachment against President Biden, a move ultimately destined to go nowhere given Democrats' control of the Senate. Nonetheless, House Republican Greg Steube of Florida accused Mr. Biden of abuse of power, bribery, fraud, even of financial involvement in the, quote, drug and prostitution activities of Hunter Biden, charges that the White House has denied and for which, as yet, no evidence has turned up directly implicating President Biden. Now, the president himself has ignored reporters' questions about those developments and about the wildfires in Hawaii for the last 4 days, including on his return from Delaware to the Oval Office this morning. The White House issued a statement by the first couple on the losses in Maui last Wednesday evening, and the president spoke twice with the head of FEMA over the weekend. But here is what it has looked and sounded like when reporters have tried to get the president to comment on camera.
On Maui, Mr. President, are you on your record?
That was when the president left the White House for Delaware late Friday evening. It was much the same when the chief executive biked past the press pool at Gordon's Pond State Park in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, yesterday afternoon.
Mr. President, are you going to take questions on Maui?
Can you come talk about Maui? I'm looking at it.
Now, the most recent comment from President Biden about this latest wave of impeachment talk from House Republicans was a wisecrack that the president made during a Bidenomics speech he gave in Maine last month, where the president suggested all of this impeachment talk is really meant to distract from his successes in reviving the economy.
Republicans may have to find something else to criticize me for. Now that inflation is coming down, maybe they'll decide to impeach me because it's coming down. I don't know. I love that one.
Mr. Biden, as you mentioned, Bianca, has no events listed on his public schedule except for lunch with the vice president about an hour from now. Tomorrow, Mr. Biden will be delivering another Bidenomics speech, this time in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, site of next week's first GOP primary debate and next year's GOP convention. Bianca.
Light schedule, relaxing weekends. Pretty par for the course, it seems. James Rosen, live at the White House. Appreciate it, James. Good to see you as always. Let's turn now to the president's son, however, Hunter Biden. Attorney General Merrick Garland named Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss as now a special prosecutor in the Hunter Biden probe. The decision on Friday sending shockwaves and a lot of skepticism across our nation. After all, Weiss had been probing Hunter Biden's financial and business dealings for years. IRS whistleblowers testify Weiss slow-walked the case. He also approved the original sweetheart plea deal that fell apart last month under scrutiny from the judge. Now, Weiss was also supposed to come in and testify to Congress. Will that still happen, or will this appointment give him an out? Our national correspondent, Logan Raddick, is tracking all this for us right now. He joins us now live from Wilmington, Delaware, with more on David Weiss's appointment. Logan.
Bianca, good afternoon. And it is an unusual appointment. The U.S. Attorney here in Delaware, David Weiss, appointed by Merrick Garland to serve as special counsel in the investigation that he's been investigating for years at this point in time into Hunter Biden and his taxes. And again, this is very unusual to have somebody from inside the government be appointed as special counsel. More on that in a moment. But as you mentioned, Bianca, the moves come shortly after testimony from IRS whistleblowers on Capitol Hill, in which they said that David Weiss was, quote, constantly limited by DOJ officials and that he was denied a request to have special counsel authority. But now Attorney General Merrick Garland is giving him that power after previously telling reporters that there was no need for Weiss to be a special counsel because he already had full authority in the investigation. Garland says Weiss asked to be appointed special counsel this past Tuesday, and he will not be denied, quote, anything that he needs.
Mr. Weiss has told Congress that he has been granted ultimate authority over this matter, including the responsibility for deciding where, when, and whether to file charges, and for making decisions necessary to preserve the integrity of any prosecution consistent with federal law.
Now, as Garland alluded to in that clip, David Weiss could now bring charges in any jurisdiction, not just here in Delaware, but in places like Washington, D.C. or in California. There's also a possibility that other members of the Biden family could be part of the investigation, but the Justice Department is declining to comment on whether President Biden himself is being investigated as part of Weiss's probe. Constitutional law expert Alan Dershowitz tells Newsmax that appointing a U.S. attorney as special counsel actually violates the law.
When you're investigating the son of the president, you better dot every I and cross every T. You don't start by breaking the law, and you don't start by violating regulations. The regulations don't say that a person outside might be, should be, could be appointed. It says shall be appointed. That means must be appointed. So it should have been somebody outside.
Now, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer was on with our own Eric Bolling on Friday night, shortly after that decision was announced, and he talked about the future of his investigation into the Biden family now that a special counsel has been appointed.
How ironic, the day after I announced that we have put together a case that I believe will win in court to subpoena Joe Biden's bank records, he appoints a special counsel, but not just any special counsel, the same U.S. attorney who had spent 5 years investigating Hunter Biden, who allowed the statute of limitations to expire on most of his tax crimes, who tried to negotiate a sweetheart plea deal that a judge kicked out of court. This is another example of this Department of Justice being weaponized, trying to do everything in their ability to obstruct congressional investigation, but it's not going to disrupt our investigation.
And U.S. Attorney David Weiss and his office are declining to comment so far on the appointment as special counsel. But the Justice Department says that he will have to release a public report. But Bianca, as we've seen with past public reports from special counsels Robert Mueller and also John Durham, those special counsels don't testify until a public report is released. So we don't know when that could happen. It could even take up to a year. And keep in mind the election for president with Joe Biden running again is next November. Back to you.
Pretty incredible. Logan Raddick live for us this noon. Thanks so much, Logan. Appreciate it. Let's talk about this a bit more. The Biden family investigations and David Weiss's new role. Let's bring in former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matthew, great to see you.
Greetings. Good to be with you.
Well, people say this is a pretty bold move for him, and I want to play a clip that sounds pretty brazen as well. This is Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, on CBS yesterday, saying he is confident there'll be no new charges from special counsel David Weiss. Take a listen.
People should keep in mind that while Mr. Weiss's title changed last week, he's the same person he's been for the last 5 years. He's a Republican U.S. attorney appointed by a Republican president and attorney general who had career prosecutors working this case for 5 years, looking at every transaction that Hunter was involved in. So whether it was tax or the gun or possible any other charge, if anything changes from his conclusion, which was 2 tax misdemeanors and a diverted gun charge, the question should be asked, what infected the process that was not the facts and the law?
All right, so this appointment was Friday, Matthew, as you know, and now it's Sunday. Where do you think he's getting that confidence? Is that normal to hear that there'll be no charges? It just seems stunning.
So that was clearly a statement and a message for one person, and that's David Weiss. And, you know, obviously the special counsel, the new special counsel, is probably a flawed appointment by Merrick Garland. He may have done it intentionally to give the Biden team another argument in their case. But, you know, at the end of the day, the sweetheart deal that Hunter Biden was entering into with a non-adversarial Department of Justice was too good, and the judge saw right through it. There was no way that 2 misdemeanors and a diversion agreement were appropriate, and that did not actually meet the interests of justice and the American people. And so, you know, we'll see if U.S. Attorney Weiss and now Special Counsel Weiss is willing to file those charges. In fact, he should file them this week because there should be 3 felony charges, 2 for tax and 1 for the gun. And we'll see if he's willing to do that. Otherwise, this is just a way to kick the can down the road and avoid congressional oversight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, a lot of the trust in the FBI with the folks here in America, as you know, has deteriorated. This story developing right now at this moment, want to get your reaction to it because it may further raise even more questions about what was going on with the Hunter Biden probe. Now a former FBI agent is corroborating claims, Matthew, from those 2 IRS whistleblowers saying, yes, Hunter Biden's legal team got advance notice, according to the House Oversight Committee Republicans. This transcript basically says they wanted to go in, but, well, somebody, they're alleging the DOJ, tipped off Hunter Biden's Secret Service team. Convenient, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt in this case that it was not an adversarial process, that the Department of Justice and the Biden political appointees, all the way up to Merrick Garland, were trying to get Hunter Biden out of this mess without any political damage and without significant criminal penalties. That's, you know, the thing is, and what frustrated me the most is when these 2 IRS whistleblowers first came out, their credibility was questioned, their political motivations were questioned, and all they were doing was trying to honestly and with integrity say why they felt like this case was not handled in the normal course. And remember, regular order, and I remember when I took over the Mueller investigation, all I cared about was regular order and doing justice. And that is clearly, that standard has been lost on the Biden DOJ. And it's a shame. And now that we have this FBI whistleblower that's corroborating that, of course he is, because that's what happened. And at the end of the day, you know, justice needs to be done. No one is above the law. And we need to stand for, and everybody on both sides should stand for the rule of law.
Yeah, it is. Well, when you watch what's playing out possibly in Georgia this week, before we let you go, District Attorney Fani Willis there will begin presenting her 2020 election case to a grand jury. There's talk this week that it will be coming forward tomorrow. You know, we've heard that she's, you know, talking about using racketeering charges, naming co-conspirators. I guess, you know, when people look at what's going on here, as a former acting attorney general, isn't this just a waste of taxpayer funds? Because there's a federal case already happening with Jack Smith. It seems like Atlanta could use that money to, I don't know, prosecute the violent crimes happening there affecting people in Georgia.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, while Georgia is free to bring charges, I mean, there could be a double jeopardy question. There's obviously the you know, the so many legal issues, but I want to hone in on one point you made, and that is the racketeering charges that certainly the House and the Senate in Georgia and the governor that signed the bill would have never intended that this be applied in this context. This was for mobsters and organized crime and gangs. So it's really surprising that if of all the things that they could investigate and look into, that would be the direction of you know, the potential charges. But you know, in Georgia, ultimately, this case is as much like the Manhattan case. It's brought by activist liberal prosecutors funded by their campaigns by George Soros, who solely are out to get Trump. And I just, you know, in my experience as a prosecutor and as the leader of the Department of Justice, this is a total corruption of the system.
And the stretching of the statutes, as you talk about there, we'll be watching that very closely. We'll have you back, I'm sure, this week. Matthew Whitaker, good to see you, sir. Thanks for your time this Monday.
Thank you.